Yo, guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay, here to talk a little bit about this whole Tory Lanez situation, the whole Tory Lanez incident, especially with to do with his father yelling and screaming at the courthouse, um, regarding his son. Tory Lanez was, of course, convicted, found guilty of assaulting Megan the Stallion uh, with that shooting with her foot. And the father, he comes out yelling and screaming, talking about, his son was wrongfully convicted, that Desiree Perez, the CEO of Rock Nation, is guilty of selling drugs, of running a drug operation out of Rock Nation, and that Jay Z is only doing this to get back at his son for not selling him the masters. And there's this lady behind him that she's screaming and yelling. She's making a big scene out in front of the LA County courthouse. And it's just like, I we know where the son got his bad temper from. I mean, this incident occurred a couple of years ago in outside of Kyrie Jenner's one of Kyrie Jenner's parties, and Tory Lanez had an argument with Megan Thee Stallion, and he shot it. Yeah, 2020. Thank you, Lisa. 2020. Yeah, a couple of years ago. We're in 2022 right now, so it was a couple of years ago, and he shot in the foot. And like Lisa herself said, now we know where the son gets his violent tendencies from. The father, this violent outburst, man, right in front of the cameras, yelling, screaming, carrying on, talking about conspiracy. But my whole thing is like, even if that was true about Rock Nation, they found DNA on your son. The DNA is not going to lie. They're not going to come up with a whole DNA type conspiracy just to get back at your son for not giving away his masters. You know what I mean? The courts are not going to comply with Jay Z's demands, and they're not going to do it just because Jay Z said so. I mean, Jay Z is a very powerful person. There's always been those sort of conspiracies regarding himself and his wife Beyonce with Illuminati. We talked about that a lot on the channel for many years, but I don't think Jay Z has that kind of pull necessarily to influence what the court does or to plant DNA evidence on Tory Lanez when it comes to the gun. And plus, on top of that, Tory Lanez, while he was probably popping in like 2016 when he did the Controller remix and the song Love It, and riding that whole wave of what they call the Canadian invasion, Justin Bieber's second comeback in 2016 and Drake's Views album, he's not really one of the greatest artists ever. He's not one of the top legends um, in the hip hop and R&B game. You know what I mean? So I don't think, to me, in my opinion, I don't think Jay Z would go all out, you know, in order to get that done. You know what I mean? I don't think he's really worth that sort of hassle, even if Jay Z had that kind of power. You know, I just think the dad, understandably upset. Your son is facing uh, these charges, and also his immigration status, his citizenry status, because he is Canadian. Um, coming into play. Lisa had mentioned that he was possibly being deported. You know, due to this incident. So, of course, the father's understandably upset, but to his dad, it's like you're coming up with things that I don't believe uh, apply to when it comes to your son. You know, you know what I mean. I don't think your son is really all that important. Most people can't name 10 Tory Lanez songs. It's not like he's one of the best that ever did it. He's not even relevant on most people's minds and radars. At least you're keeping up more so with the case. Yeah, the outburst was uncalled for. But, still, if it was my son, you know what I mean, going to jail, I would try to cover it up if it was any sort of way possible to try to cover it up, and try to make some excuses. But what he's coming out with could really be disastrous for Jay Z and Rock Nation because we saw recently what happened with Young Thug. We saw that Young Thug was brought up on RICO charges. Now, the government and the law enforcement agencies are targeting rap labels for RICO charges like they was a mafia or like they was organized crime or like they was these big conglomerate gangs like um, the Bloods or Lion Kings. You know what I mean? They're targeting the record companies in the same way like they targeted organized crime. These RICO laws were created for organized crime. So by him saying things like this, even though the allegations are unfounded that Desiree Perez was smuggling drugs and that Jay Z was behind smuggling drugs, he could really get somebody like a Jay Z or a Desiree Perez permanently locked up. Claiming that Desiree Perez turned state evidence on whatever co-defendants, like the father didn't even make no sense in my opinion. You know what I mean? He was just incoherently rambling on and on about this and about that, trying to sound profound, trying to sound in the clip like a preacher. You know what I mean? When he didn't have really no leg to stand on. Your son's DNA evidence was found on the gun in question. You know, you're just digging a deeper hole for your son in this situation. Just accept it. Say my son messed up. He had some temper problem. He has some anger issues, and just keep it moving. But no, the father didn't do that. He continuously, uh, battered on and on with this. The whole outburst, like Lisa said, was completely uncalled for and no evidence presented. You know what I mean? If Tory Lanez's attorney had done a better job and had done his due diligence, it wouldn't be an outburst necessary. But he was guilty, and a lot of people, a lot of his fans, are digging into this conspiracy bullshit too. A lot of them didn't even like Jay Z to begin with, and I know Lisa is no fan of Jay. You know what I mean, and no fan of Beyonce, but even her will say that these allegations are unfounded. What do you think, police? Do you think there's any truth or merit to uh, Jay Z and Rock Nation, uh, you know, conspiring against Tory? Because again, I could go on the street right now and ask 10 people in the street, name me some of Tory Lanez's greatest hits, and nobody will be able to come up with even 10. If they could come up with five, you'd be lucky. You know what I mean? I come personally myself come up with only two. The last time I remember caring about Tory Lanez, like I said, 2016, when Drake. Right, yeah. Lisa saying Jay Z got a wife and kids. He got no time to be helping Megan Thee Stallion with this case. Exactly. The last time I can remember caring about Tory Lanez was, like I said, 2016. Nobody cares about this dude anymore. He was riding a wave of Canadian artists that were coming out. The Canadian success, what they call the Canadian invasion of the mid to late 2000s. And, you know, now nobody gives a shit about him. Nobody cares about him. Nobody blinks an eyelash. I'm sure the last thing on Jay Z's mind is what Tory, how can we lock Tory Lanez up because he wouldn't give us our masters? What's his masters probably even worth at this point? It ain't worth nothing, man. You know what I mean? This dude was an angry little guy, a guy with a Napoleon complex, a smaller guy dating a taller, bigger, physically bigger female. And he felt like, if an argument was a pop off, it was nothing he could really do against her because she was much larger in size and stature. So he used the gun against her. You know what I mean? That's what it basically boils down to. And an individual with an anger problem, you know what I mean, because of his size. And we're not we're not going to generalize and say, oh, because he was a smaller guy, that was the reason why he did what he did. You know, who really knows? You know what I mean? Who really knows that's the reason? But a lot of people that are smaller, men as well as women, tend to have a lot more anger issues and tend to be a little bit more, what do you call it? Aggressive because they're overcompensating for their lack of size. So when they get into confrontations, they feel like they must be extra hard and extra tough in situations like this. You know what I mean? But he knew he couldn't beat her up physically, so what did he do? He uses a gun, which means he has an abusive nature anyway. And I think that's part of the reason that the father can't come to terms, can't come to terms with accepting that. Okay, yeah, he's 5'3", which means compared to both the average man and the average woman, he's on the shorter side. I mean, hell, he is close to uh, Lisa herself size. You know what I mean? And she's a woman. You know what I mean? So compared to Megan Thee Stallion, this okay, Lisa. I thought you were taller than that. You know what I mean? But for a man, this dude is real short. I mean, I'm 5'7". You know what I mean? And I'm considered on the short side. So imagine this dude. You know what I mean? This dude is tiny. you know, you know what I mean? And have you seen Megan Thee Stallion? You know what I mean? Have you seen how big she ain't called Megan Thee Stallion just for a rap name? You know what I mean? She is a large woman. She could pick this dude up and just throw him aside like he was freaking a munchkin. You know what I mean? Like this dude is a munchkin compared to yeah, him and Putin got a short man count. Exactly, Lisa. Especially short short people in general, but short men because uh, society places females because of their biology. They place much more importance on height in their selection of men, so they then tend to value taller men, and because of that, shorter men feel like they have to overcompensate with being aggressive. You know what I mean? So that's very common in history. We know that with Napoleon, right? 5'10". That's big for a woman, and just not just the height either. At least the way she's built. Like she's not tall like a tall skinny model. She's built thick. You know what I mean? She has muscles. She could throw the dude around. Because even if you're on the smaller side, like say you are, at least you're still built. You still have some muscularity. So she's like that. She's like that too. She has muscularity compared to him, and he has no muscularity. For a man, he's tall and lank. I mean, he's not tall, he's short and skinny. You know, which not only short but skinny puts him at a complete disadvantage when it comes to what it's going to be like in prison for him, because he's in there for fucked up charges. He's in there for assaulting a woman. You know what I mean? Trying to basically, he shot her in the foot. And that's the funny thing too. Not that it's funny that she got shot, but he shot her in the foot, and a bullet could have got lodged in her foot, and her foot could have got infected with gangrene and, God forbid, amputated. So he's in jail already for assaulting a female. He's short, he's skinny, and you know, he's trying to give one of the greatest rappers of all time, somebody that people really respect in the rap industry, and Jay-Z, him and his dad, try to get him in trouble with the law. So when this dude ends up locked up in jail, he's gonna be facing some really hard troubles ahead. You know what I mean? He's not gonna have many friends and many allies when it comes in there because of his charges and because of his size. You know what I mean? You're 5'3" and you think you could be the biggest, bulliest guy in the world, and you can't. But Lisa's absolutely correct when it comes to these shorter men. We see it in history with Napoleon. Napoleon was like you know, like 4'1" or whatever, really small, really tiny dude, and basically conquered the entire world and almost, almost, was a precursor, like was Hitler before Hitler, almost conquered all of Europe and really upset the apple cart when it came to European monarchies. And that's where the complex comes from, that these shorter men throughout history become these really aggressive monsters, and try to be the biggest bullies. But you can't be a bully, bro. You know what I mean? Look how small you are. And people say, well, the gun is the great equalizer. Yeah, but people are gonna sympathize with you if the gun is the greatest equalizer and you're being attacked. But if you ain't being attacked, then you're the bully. If you ain't the defender and you're initiating the acts of aggression, then you're the bully, bro. You know what I mean? You're not defending yourself. You know what I mean? Your your actions can't be categorized as a righteous action for defending yourself. You're just a bully. You know what I mean? You're just the aggressor, trying to shoot her in the foot, and possibly getting her foot chopped off. And people like Megan Thee Stallion. You know what I mean? A lot of people didn't like WAP or whatever. You know what I mean? But she got more hits than Tory Lanez. And we talked about this before, that when women are really successful, yeah. Oh wow, yeah, I forgot about that, Lise. Yeah, he had the August Alsina. Yeah, he's a really aggressive little man. You know what I mean? And you just, people are gonna be like when he hits the prison. When he hits prison, calm your little ass down, sit your little ass down somewhere. You know, what he really needs, and his father too. No disrespect to an elder, But what he really needs is an ass whooping. You know what I mean? By a man, or even shit by a woman. You know what I mean? He really needs somebody to really whoop his ass. And I'm not condoning violence. I'm not saying that violence is acceptable in any sort of circumstance. But, you know, a guy like this that's going to initiate violence on people deserves violence in return. You know what I mean? Somebody should send their goons after him. You know what I mean? You're going to initiate violence. You're trying to intimidate other people. Fuck it. You deserve violence tenfold. You know what I mean? You deserve a dude to come out and just say, fuck it. And, just get at you. Because you don't need to be doing that. You know? And that's what's going to happen because he's going to be dealing with people that, yeah, do I think they'll get deported? Yeah, because he's not in the country illegally. Well, you bet he'll have an easier time, I think, Canadian, if he gets deported and they lock him up in Canada. You know what I mean? Than he would in the United States. The United States, forget it. You know what I mean? People are not in this corner, and people are not down with what he tried to do, what he was doing. So I don't know. I think in the states, you know, he'll have a harder time than he would in Canada. So if he gets deported, that could possibly be one of the best things for him, at least. You know, because I mean, he came out against Jay Z. Many people consider Jay Z to be the GOAT, man. His father is aiming at a target. His father's aiming at a target that can't be hit. Jay Z is untouchable when it comes to the amount of influence that Hove has. Hove is the king of hip hop, man. You know what I mean? You just don't come at the head of somebody like Hove and expect that people are gonna back your player, respect you, because they ain't. They ain't gonna respect you because you're out of pocket, you're out of line. You're dissing one of the greats, one of the OGs, one of the luminaries of the hip hop world. So, nah, you're absolutely right, Alicia. I think Game getting deported is the best thing for him. So if he gets deported, you better pray that he gets deported because now you're making enemies you don't want to make. You know, you've already made enough enemies by acting out of pocket like you really was. Now you're trying to make enemies by trying to get Jay Z and Desiree Perez locked up on some RICO charges, knowing that the government is really looking at these rap labels now. Like I said, like criminal organizations. They're putting the rap labels on the level with the mob, on the level with Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, the big criminal organization because of the Young Thug situation. So you really want to get one of the greatest rappers of all time locked up because of some of your bullshit because you just couldn't handle your conflicts with a female and you feel some type of way because she's shorter than you. You know what I mean? You couldn't address your physical inadequacies in a different way. Now you want to get everybody else in legal trouble. Fuck you for that, bro. So you better hope you get deported. You know what I mean? You better hope that you go to Canada. Canada's the safest bet for you right now, my boy. You know? So I agree with you, Lucy. He should pray there for that. What do you think? Do you think he will get deported? Or do you think he stays here in the United States and have to deal if he goes to some kind of if he goes to some kind of jail or prison here in the United States, it needs to not be in New York. Because you come at Jay Z's head in New York, you know Jay still got love in the streets. Even though he's been famous for quite a while now, he still got love, in the hood. Especially in New York, where he basically held New York rap down after Biggie died. He took the ball and ran with it when it came to New York. So we'll see what ends up happening with him. But his 15 minutes of fame is over. His time is up. You know, he, people are gonna turn this into a female male thing. You know what I mean? They're gonna say, oh well, this is some other Me Too shit. This is some bullshit, but it's not. I initially, I ain't gonna front. I initially thought it was some shit like that. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, you know, it could be some conspiracy. But then I looked into the case, and I'm like, nah, his DNA was on the gun, so it had to be. I mean, it had to be. You know what I mean? The DNA is, while not a precise science, you know, is one of the ways that the criminal justice system keeps from locking up innocent people. You know what I mean? And his dad's gonna mention something that's completely unrelated in the video. His dad's gonna mention, oh, this Hispanic guy got shot by uh, uh, one of the cops, and the DA, and that in his son's case handled that, and the cop wasn't prosecuted. Okay, Mr. Lanez, but that has nothing to do with what your son was accused of. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, everybody's playing this police brutality role because police brutality is an issue, but you can't insert police brutality and social injustice into everything, because then it takes away the sting of it. It's like the boy who cried wolf. Yeah, yeah, I know. It's like the boy who cried wolf. It takes away from when it really does happen. Hold on, guys. I'll be right back. back, back. Uh, yeah. Lisa says, "Do I think rappers or people in general need to apologize to me?" Yeah, Drake was really out of pocket for the comments he made, talking about she lied or whatever. But he's defending his boy. I mean, think about it, Lisa. They're from the same city. Both of them are associated with the Canadian wave of hip hop. You know what I mean? He's just backing his homeboy. You know what I mean? Is he wrong? Yeah, but I mean, y'all know me. I'm a Drizzy fan. I'm OVO gang all the way. You know what I mean? But a lot of things that Drake does, like that shitty album he put out last year, or some of the comments he's made, you know what I mean? You're like, damn, don't have opinions. Just make music. You know what I mean? Because your shit, you know, if if your comments are not educated or your comments, don't have merit to them, you don't know what you're talking about, you're not making an informed commentary, then just don't talk about it, bro. Because one thing about Drake, before all of this, Drake was already in controversy for his texting of underage girls like Stranger Things star Millie Bobby Brown, and his relationships with women, the hot sauce controversy where he put hot sauce in the condoms and denying his son and all everything else. So you don't need that on top of you, bro. Like, don't fight that man's battles. You know what I mean? So what? You're from the same city. So what? You both rep Toronto. Toronto is a big city. I'm pretty sure you don't need to put your career on the line for your boy. Like, I mean, yeah, bros over hoes, bro, but bro code or whatever. But even, you know what I mean? Even young MA was like, bro code is some bullshit. You know, like, I'm not putting myself out there for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro code doesn't extend that far. You know what I'm saying? So Drake just needs to let him ride for himself. Was he there? Did he see it? Was he there in the confrontation between Meg and Tory Lanez? No. If you wasn't there and you don't know what you're talking about and you wasn't in the courtroom and you don't know the evidence presented, keep your mouth shut about it. You know what I'm saying? And that's coming from me, a fan of Drake that I've been riding with Drake since he first came out with Best I Ever Had and been a fan of his music for years. Lisa and I are going back and forth about my admiration for Drake and his determination and his star power and saying that he was the artist of the decade, which I still believe he was in the 2010s. But he's going to bat for somebody that he's putting his neck out there for somebody that he don't even know if the guy really did it. You know what I'm saying? He don't have all the evidence. He don't have all the facts. You know what I mean? So unless you have all the evidence and all the facts, don't bring it up. Don't mention it. You don't know what you're talking about, my boy. You know what I'm saying? You wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? What if you weren't there? You don't have all the facts and you don't know what you're talking about, then don't bring it up. The evidence was presented, the DNA evidence was there, and that's the deal breaker. Is the DNA evidence. Because if not, you're looking at Drake like with the Ed Lover meme. Come on, son. You know what I mean? Like, you publicly dissing Megan Thee Stallion. You're creating a rap beef. First of all, back in the day when they created rap beefs, it was between women and men and men. You know what I'm saying? A male rapper wouldn't go out of their way to diss a female and get into a rap battle beef with a female. That's a female rapper. Like, you're really gonna pick on a female? You know what I'm saying? If it's a relationship issue and it's a lover's quarrel between a guy and a girl over their relationship, why are you jumping in? You know what I'm saying? Let your boy handle it. It's his relationship. Like, you make yourself look really suspect. You jumping in a relationship quarrel between a man and a woman. Come on. You know, Drake, you're already suspect in a lot of people's eyes with your soft songs. You know what I mean? So you don't need to make yourself more suspect by doing shit like that. Anyway, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to see my next videos coming up. Sorry for the short intermission. I'll be doing the 2020 year in review like I always do. Politics, uh, wrestling, news, and music. And this is going to be on the list. I do it every year. Seen it for 2019, seen it for 2020, seen it, yeah, 2022, at least I said that. Did it for 2021, and I'll be doing it for 2022. We got to, I mean, this has been a crazy year. You know what I mean? Not as crazy, I would say, as 2021, 20 or 2020, but kind of crazy in its own right. And peace. Love you guys. Hope you had an enjoyable holiday season, enjoyable Christmas with your families. At least I hope you had an enjoyable one. We didn't, when I did the Christmas video, you know, you wasn't available then, you know what I mean? But we did it, you know what I mean? Well, we did it on this channel because everything we do is always together on this channel, the J Reaction family. You know what I mean? But we heading into 2022. I'll be doing that. New Year's Eve. You know what I mean? Lots to talk about. Gonna get my thoughts together when it comes to that. Anyway, guys, love you. Peace. Thank you, Lise, for contributing. Come on.